Hey, welcome back to Strange Mind 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be getting back into the Octunnumi by Trevor Allen Forrest. Now, please don't be shy to subscribe if you haven't subscribed already, or hit that like button. It would mean a great deal to me. But go ahead, get your snacks, get your drinks, or sit back, relax, and let's get to this. This is the Hitherant. There are no words to describe your first sight of the Hitherant. Nothing will ever compare to that moment. Nothing you have seen before or again will ever be as wonderful and perfect as when you first step into the Hitherant's power, because this is everything your heart desires. Every detail is as you would want. Colors, sounds, smells, atmosphere, all exactly as you would wish. It's as if someone, something, somehow has managed to creep into your soul and discover your absolute idea of your perfect being, your perfect existence, because that's exactly what has happened. From your first breath at the Hitherant, your deepest desires have been discovered, explored, and laid bare, and now you know you can have it all. This perfection you see before you, you can have it, live it, be it. It is here, just waiting for you. All you have to do is choose. Choose to follow your true path, or choose the Hitherant, and everything is yours, right here, right now. And all the Hitherant asks in return? Your soul. Deeply immersed in their own versions of paradise, Reg and Trad can barely speak, so in awe as they of the sights that they are having in their mind, are in complete awe. It's playing out just as it would in the Hitherant, as it uses their heart's desires. Oh, have no doubt that this is a Hitherant, Francine replies, but I suspect it is not as you are seeing it. However, Francine throws a shaft of energy at Reg and Trad, jolting them into the reality. This is... Oh, both boys respond as their dream worlds evaporate from their minds and reveal quite a different view. But still, Trad comments, taking in the impressive scene before them, expensive cars, shops and houses, roads that actually are paved with gold, a sense of well-being engulfing them. Not too shabby. So, what I was looking at before, Reg asks. That was your idea of having it all, your utopia. Francine says, extending her arm to one of the black cats at her feet. Each of you saw your dream come true scenario. So, prediction, Trad asks. That, or temptation, she replies as the cat jumps. As I said before, this place tunes into your deepest desires. It searches for your weakness, the things you want the most, or think that you do. On reaching Francine's outstretched arm, the cat loosely wraps itself around her wrist, and although resized to a solid bangle, Reg is fairly sure it is still breathing. The question is, was what you saw something you believe possible or desire? Being present here signals a willingness to be a servant of the Hitherant, she continues, to follow its will, to execute its commands, to surrender your free will. She pauses. By following temptation, if indeed that is what it is, you are lost to the Hitherant. Of course, being Tyrellians, it would have little effect on you, and why Francine could reach you, Elonabeth adds. What you saw is in fact your reality, a reality you are able to accomplish yourself, and therefore you have no need of the Hitherant. That's good, right? Reg asks. Yes, she smiles, swooping down to pick up the remaining cat. That's good, and, she pauses, waiting for the cat to morph into a brooch. It signals that whatever you saw in your little dreamland. Just then, she adds, while the brooch attaches itself to her jacket, is in fact something you can and quite possibly will achieve by your own volition, which would make any temptation the Hitherant may offer pointless. So you saw it too? Trad asks, blushing slightly. No, don't worry. They are your dreams. Only you can see them, Francine says. Well, you and the Hitherant. That's how it knows what temptation will entice you. But be under no illusion, Elonabeth adds. The Hitherant does not give up without a fight. Anytime your dream seems a little tough to manifest, in steps the Hitherant with offers of a shortcut and to steal your soul, Trav remarks. Steal? No, darling, Francine comments. The Hitherant takes nothing. Everything is given freely. By the time people arrive at these shores, they are either so desperate, corrupt, or greedy that they will give up anything to get what they want. So there is no choice, Regit counters. Oh, there's always a choice, Francine responds. It may not be very clear, and it may not be easy, but there's always a choice to do the right thing, she pauses. Or not. Then why this? Trad gestures the surroundings. I mean, how is this so bad? Oh, this? She smiles. This is the Hitherant having another attempt at drawing you in. But what this does mean is that we do not have very much time. The Hitherant will look to eject you. You are here because of us, remember, she gestures, Elonabeth. On your own, you would never have gotten this far. So what? Trad grins. You have a season ticket? More of a free pass. Still smiling, she glances at the beautiful scenery as it, very subtle, begins to distort and fade. Moving past Reg, she indicates for them to follow her. Come on, she says, as she heads towards the rows of smart shops. The world around them disassembling, with each step, the welcoming calm being replaced by a gloomy, oppressive heaviness. So this is the real Hitherant, Trad comments. There is no real at the Hitherant, Elonabeth states. That is the welcome for anyone who cannot be influenced. if by any chance they have happened upon the place. Trust me, the Hitherant do not want the unaffected assisting the trapped, which is a win-win. Either you are so horrified you leave and stop being a threat, or you are so desperate to get out you forget your true self and fall for temptation. Francine adds, but let me tell you, it's about to get a whole lot worse, and that is when temptation will start to present itself. The beautiful imagery around them begins to fall away. Large drops of colors and light slide and drip, leaving a black, undulating fog. Every step taking them further and further away from the perfect world. I can't breathe, Trad strains. It's so cold, Reg mutters. With a slight hand gesture, Alonabeth cloaks each of them in an embracing light, the warmth penetrating the cold. Able to breathe again, they take a moment to adjust to the clean air while becoming aware that the landscape has completely transformed. Dark and dank, the buildings are desolate and decaying. Ragged figures stumble from doorways, wandering aimlessly, distant cries echoing along the deserted street. I see what you mean, Trad grimaces, hardly inviting. But stay here too long, and you would happily offer up your soul to leave, right? Alonabeth offers. How long do we have? Trad asks. With a slight shake of the head, she moves away quickly. Not really the response I was hoping for, Trad says as he follows. Wow, this place is depressing, Reg mutters. Be grateful you cannot smell anything, Alonabeth comments. The things you are being shown will get progressively worse or more enticing, depending on what it is most likely to generate a reaction from you, Francine informs them. Just remember, it's all designed to make you leave or surrender. Try to stay positive, she adds with a weak smile. You're kidding, right? Reg replies. Think happy thoughts, she suggests. Happy, shattering glass, followed by splintering of wood, stops them in their tracks as two brawling men crash into the street directly in front of them. Oblivious to the newcomers, they continue their fight in the muddy street. We cannot be seen here, Francine says, ducking into a doorway. Staying in the shadows of the seemingly endless, miserable street, Trad suddenly takes the lead. She's here, he signals, stopping abruptly outside an abandoned theater. Not able to pinpoint exactly where, he pauses, looks around, then immediately downward, underneath us, he says, blasting energy at the shuttered theater doors. Trad steps through and heads straight for the archway marked stalls. On reaching the box office, he hesitates, pretty much what you would expect, given the circumstances. Smashed windows and peeling wallpaper, but he muses, the maggots oozing from the eye sockets of a decomposing ticket seller. That? Not so much. Yup, things are getting worse. Signaling to the others to follow, he leads the archway. Trad! Trad! A small familiar voice calls to Trad from the dark hall to his right. Trad, it's me. Pemity, I'm down here. Pemity, he calls out, turning towards the voice. Yes, he mutters to himself. They found Pemity. With any luck, the rest of the kids will be with her and... Trad! Trad! Pemidy's voice becomes louder and more insistent. He moves away from the archway, edging forward. He throws up a light orb. He can see her, yes, her dark curly hair bouncing as she waves excitedly. She's wearing the dress that he had last seen her in, but how? Take my hand, Trad, she says, interrupting his thoughts and reaching out. As she does so, she seems to be moving backwards. Come with me, she says, smiling. He hesitates slightly. Pemedy is shouting now, her voice getting louder and louder, but her lips are not moving. Trad! Trad! He swings around to see Alonabeth calling. Trad! She screams at him. Both Francine and Alonabeth are trying to move Reg, who is engaged in conversation with himself at the dilapidated popcorn booth. Glancing back, Trad sees that Pemedy is gone. For a moment, he continues to look for her in a desperate hope that it had not been an illusion. Nothing, Alonabeth says, passing a hand in front of Reg's face. He walked into a temptation, Francine comments. Thank you. I would very much like a drink. Oh, and popcorn, thank you. Deep in his own mind, Reg is looking at the food on offer, quite sure that he is not seeing the fly-infested popcorn dispenser, complete with broiling maggots. Francine looks to Alonabeth. If he accepts anything, touches anything in this dream state, then we've lost him. Trad glances at his hand and back at where Pemedy had stood in the doorway reaching out for him. But I don't know how to stop it, Alonabeth mutters. I've never pushing past the two women. Trad grabs the scruff of Reg's coat. Like this, he says, and drags his brother through the auditorium. Well, that's one way, I suppose, says Alonabeth, following. Where's my popcorn? I like popcorn. Popcorn is my favorite, and everything was so shiny. A desponent Reg moans. Trust me, you don't want it, Trad says as he releases his brother's collar. You're always spoiling my fun, Reg huffs, stamping his foot. I'm going back. Before Reg has a chance to move, Trad slaps him hard across the face. What the... Reg, Trad asks, studying his face. Yes, Trad, what? He snaps back, holding his cheek. Good to have you back, Trad replies before turning on his heel. This way, he says, and don't believe anything you see, he calls back, good or bad. Stepping gingerly onto the frayed, ripped carpet that covers the aisle, moldy, rank fabric, once festooned across the balcony above, now hangs in tatters, blocking onward movement. On contact, it collapses into a thick slime that gloops over Trad's shoulder, arm and hand as he watches. It appears to be slowly eating into his flesh. He digs his nails into his thumb. Then he digs the nail of his thumb into his forefinger and forces himself to focus on that, the real pain, and not the one in his mind, until shuddering. He instinctively brushes away the gloop that wasn't there and clears the illusion from his head. I cannot believe he slapped me, Reg says irritably. Did he need to slap me? Probably not. Francine smiles as she pushes him on. Clambering over the not really there rats as he climbs up onto the stage, Trad moves to its center, dragging the thick dust, grime, and, well, whatever else that was not really there aside with his foot. He reaches the floor, then, jumping squarely and landing heavily with both feet, Trad vanishes from sight. Oh my! Trad? Alonabeth runs to the square opening left by the lowering of the trap door. Smiling up at her through the billowing dust cloud, he calls, "I'm fine. I'll send it back up. When you get down here, head for the back stairs to the cellar." Negotiating the dusty halls, Trad fights off the images, sounds, and sensations running through his head, trying to focus on something other than what is being presented in his mind. Eventually reaching the narrow doorway at the top of the steep flight of stairs, leading down to the cellar, tentatively testing the top stair tread and casting a light orb ahead of him, he starts to descend. Oil-soaked torches cast light in the dungeon-like caves below and onto a mass of writhing, decaying matter. As he forces his mind to shift through the illusion to find the real, a movement catches his eye, bringing into focus a hunched silhouette by a far wall. "Cetrice?" he calls, sending the orb back for the others as he reaches the figure, disheveled, grubby, and with their hair falling about their face, the orange tinged, seemingly more exaggerated in the half-light, and despite Alonabeth's cloak blocking out the stench, Trad still manages to catch a faint waft of lemongrass. Cetrice attempts to smile up at Trad, the cut on her lip causing her to flinch in pain. Black mascara runs down her cheeks, and there are small cuts on her brow, as well as her mouth. Her jacket and trousers are ripped, and some buttons missing from her shirt. But for all this, Trad considers what is probably the most disturbing part of the day is that Cetrice is stunning. "Trad, I knew you would come." "You did?" "Yes," she replies. "You are the only one who could get me out of here." Trad," Francine calls from the top of the stairs. "We have to leave this place any longer, and we will never find our way back." Placing an arm around her waist, Trad helps Cetrice to her feet. "Wait," she says, scrambling in the dirt, pulling out a narrow, flat-linked necklace, fixing it around her neck. The blackened surface takes the form of a draped cat. Resting her hand gently over it, she smiles as they head for the stairs. Reaching the top, Cetrice breaks away from Trad's support and heads for the stage door to the rear of the building, gesturing for the others to follow. As she stumbles ahead, she calls back, "No time to explain," flinging open the door and stepping into the alleyway beyond. "We need to get to Bolivian," she says, peering through the gloom to the wall at the end of a little way down to her left, and then back up the length of the alleyway to its entrance. "Where are we looking?" Reg asks Cetrice, as she scans the piles of boxes and bags heaped at intervals along the walls. "I don't know," she says. She hesitates. "I had hoped he had managed to get away, but I can feel his presence." As she slowly moves toward the opening head, she mutters, "He is down here somewhere." Catching a slight glimmer of metal from the light of the orb ahead of them, Reg can just make out a human shape spread across a pile of bags and discarded waste. "Here!" he shouts, as he sprints toward the motionless body of Bolivian, his right arm flung out across the rubbish, a mangled mass of metal where his left arm and upper body replacement mechanics had once been, his unseeing eyes staring up at the dull sky. Dwarfed by his hulking mass, Cetrice kneels beside him and whispers, "Apadeus, no." Gently, Cetrice places her palm on Bolivian's chest, part Ogeri, part gigantic. Mostly machine. Once hailed as a hero, now condemned as a villain, he draws a deep breath as a soft glow radiates from her arm, the light seeping into his body, gradually returning life. "You are safe?" he asks as his eyes focus on her. "Thanks to you, Apadeus," she smiles. Leaning in closer, she whispers, "What happened to you?" As he attempts to lift his hand, she gently takes it into hers, and the last moments of his life are played out around them. Cetrice is running down the alleyway, the brick wall dead ahead. She reaches for the stage door, opening it. She turns to speak to Bolivian, standing in the alley entrance, his bulk virtually blocking the entrance. "Go," he shouts. "Go now." Slamming the door behind her, Bolivian turns to see Nathaniel? "Bolivian!" he shouts back. "Nathaniel, what?" Bolivian, suddenly thrown backwards, lands heavily on the rubbish, with Nate now staring and standing over him. Bolivian is unable to walk, unable to move. He has him in an eater fret, Francine says. "But how?" Reg asks. "Nate has never had the abilities. Abilities or not, how are they working here?" Trad asks. As Bolivian struggles, chains begin to form from the rubbish and snake their way around his body. "It's taken me a long time, Bolivian," Nate says, "but I found you. I found the Ethernet. Did you really think you could stay hidden forever after what you did? We trusted you, Bolivian." "Nathaniel, you don't know." "What don't I know, Bolivian? I know my sister would be alive if you hadn't double-crossed us. I know you were supposed to bring the kids to safety, Bolivian. To us. Not sell them to the highest bidder. Nate, it's not what you think." Shackles have begun to tighten around Bolivian's wrists. "That's funny." Nate laughs. "It never is when the bad guy gets caught. There's always some redeeming reason for their action. But here's what I think, Bolivian. I think you lied to us. You were the one behind it all, and you sold their souls, Bolivian. That's why the carriage blew up right by the Ethernet. Young, untainted souls are pretty rare around here. I imagine you were able to provide them with so many in one go." Chains are slowly encircling Bolivian's throat. "Weren't our goals and terms good enough? What did they offer you, Bolivian? You do know it's all an illusion, right? Whatever they promised is all up here." He taps his temple, then gestures around the alley. This is the reality." "I know the reality, Nate," Bolivian rasps. "I am living it and have been ever since." "Oh, I know how they repay their own here, Bolivian." Nate interrupts. "I've seen it." "How? How has Nate seen the Ethernet?" Reg asks. Everything you could ever wish for, yours for the taking, he laughs. I'm surprised they haven't offered you an upgrade, he says as he kicks Bolivian's left side, the mechanical arm and shoulder now held by the chains. Let's see if I can help you with all that, shall I? Nate's hand gestures, signals, the chains. Nate's hand gestures signals to the chains to constrict around Bolivian's shoulders until finally crushing the metal. Bolivian lets out a defiant scream as he tries to free himself. How is he feeling this? Reg asks, shocked at what he is witnessing. It's artificial metal. Why can he feel it? It's more than just a replacement body part, Francine says quietly. The metal is fused to his nervous system. As the metal breaks away from Bolivian's body, he slumps, breathing heavily. There. Now. They will have to give you a proper arm, won't they? Nate smiles. Oh, but wait. You're not gonna survive this. Bolivian, because I am taking your life. Like you took the lives of those innocent children, and I will make it my mission to ensure that your soul never rests. Nate, you have to listen to me. If I die, then what, Bolivian? The chains constrict around Bolivian's throat. Nate produces a small black cube from his pocket. An Ifruli, Elonabeth gasps. He mustn't. Bolivian attempts to speak. His voice cut off by the tightening chains. No quick end for you, Bolivian. No swift explosion. No. You are to suffer in limbo, like the rest of us that you stole from. Never to rest. As Bolivian struggles to free himself, his efforts become less and less effective. Nate twists the cube, splitting it at the halfway point to reveal a small opening, holding the container above Bolivian's body. He waits for the final breath. A faint light rises and hovers a few feet above Nate's raised hand. Sensing the black cube, the light attempts to move away, but with nowhere to go, the pull of the Ifruli is too strong. Oh no, you don't, Nate chuckles, smiling down at the lifeless Bolivian as he lightly shakes the box above his head. The light swirls and slowly enters the little cube. There you go, Nate says, sensing its capture, sealing it, and returning to his pocket. Stooping down on one knee, Nate places his hand on Bolivian's lifeless body. The chains retract, returning to its discarded item of rubbish strewn around them, pulling images from Bolivian's mind, keeping some and discarding many. Nate suddenly stands, holding a memory image, frozen to the spot. He glances again at the image, sways slightly, looks at Bolivian, and then turns and runs. Amadeus, Cetrice whispers, stroking his face as the scene fades. You must find them. Protect them. I'm sorry. I failed you. He looks away. Amadeus, you have no reason to feel anything but pride. You are brave and courageous. I was. And you will be again, she says gently. Rest now. Will I see you again? He asks, searching her eyes. I'll make sure of it. She replies, slowly removing her hand, allowing the light to travel back through her arm as the life fades from his body. Sister, Elonabeth begins, without his soul, we will find a way, Cetrice interrupts. Come, she urges others. We have to leave this place. Hold it right there, pretty lady. I think you and me have some unfinished business. Fanning out across the entrance to the alleyway behind them, a dozen or so ravaged street dwellers grunt in agreement. And it seems to me that you been and brought some friends with you. Now you and me both know you don't be comin' and goin' from Hathernet without payment. Ain't that right, lads? Jeers and whooping come from the others as they step up, forming a line either side of their spokesman. Sisters, boys, Cetrice smiles, getting to her feet. May I introduce to you Mr. Higgins? This gentleman and his associates here are responsible for my long absence and current disheveled state. Yeah, we sure are, ain't we, fellas? Higgins grins at his friends, and he scratches his exposed stomach, licking his cracked lips as he continues. And I'm thinking we should be finishing what we started. Is that so? She asks. Well, I'm sorry to disappoint you, Mr. Higgins, but as you can see, I am not alone as I was the last time I had the pleasure of your company, and you do not have the advantage of surprise on your side this time. Your little friends ain't gonna harm me, he says, displaying his chipped, blackened teeth in a broad grin. You ain't got no powers in the instrument. No one has. That's the deal, so I'm thinking we got the upper hand. An advantage, missy. They start to close in. You're forgetting one tiny detail, she comments. What's that? We have our own deal with the proprietor of this particular insomed. In one small joint movement from the sisters, Higgins and his men are flat out on their backs, dragging Higgins across the floor with a slight movement of her head until he is sprawled at her feet. Cetrice looks down at him, motionless, under the energy forces pressing down on his chest, his breathing becoming labored. Any last words? Cetrice asks as spears of dirt curl up from the ground, poised and aimed at Higgins and his men. Sister, shush, Francine, she hisses. We have unfinished business. Isn't that right, Mr. Higgins? Look, lady, he gasps. We weren't meaning no harm, just a little playing about, you know, nothing serious. Oh, sure, I know all about playing. She raises her hand, and the spears move closer. Look, we were told to keep you here for a while, just till, he indicates Bolivian. Thought we could fool around a bit at first, you know, friendly like. Wait, you knew she was coming? Reg asks, stepping closer. Sure we did, access point and everything, he replies. Told to keep her out of the way for a while until we got word, then rough her up a bit to get the big guy riled up and into the alley. Didn't reckon on him there being such a good runner. With all that metal and all, he chuckles. Still, didn't do much good in the end, I guess. Who set you up for this? Francine demands. As if I'm gonna know that. He laughs. Go ahead, take a look. He gestures his temple. No need, he doesn't know. Trad chips in, taking his focus off the man's mind. He had a message to wait at the access point and take down the first person through. So why did Obadias call you? Asks Elonabeth, turning to her sister. I don't know. We didn't have time. Cetrice hesitates. His message, he said it was urgent. Lady, Higgins chimes in, any message that man sent was a trick. There ain't no one sending nothing from here. without a reason. One that benefits the governor. If you get my drift, he chortles. Now, I know you ain't gonna do me no harm. Not if you want to get out of here, that is. 'Cause I'm betting you have been here long enough now to forget your way out. He smiles. But me, I don't forget. So, he looks at the spears, inches from his face. If you would be so kind. Cetrice lowers her arm, and the dirt collapses. Coughing, Higgins and his men get to their feet. Now then, if you good people would just follow me. And that, my dear friends, is the end of this chapter. So, Abadias, or Bolivian, had something important to tell Cetrice, but he wasn't able to because of the ambush. So, comment down below, what do you think happened, and do you think the kids are still alive? Because it honestly seems like they are. Well, message below what you think and your thoughts and opinions on this chapter. And until next time, this is Ruby, signing off.